There we're on. Hello, Chill Computer Guy. We're here in Bitwig Studio. We're going to take a look at a track here that I've been working on. I've had a couple hours into it. It's a 4/4, meaning that the kick drum lands on quarter notes. So that means it's a house or a techno track. If anybody knows the difference between house and techno, which is probably obvious, but I just haven't studied any electronical music genre as intensely as I probably should. If anybody wants to leave a comment on the difference between techno and house as far as the specifics, I believe they both have a quarter note kick drum. The thing about a quarter note kick drum is when you're learning, a DAW, electronic music, computer music, whatever you want to call it, it's actually good to start with a 4/4 kick drum because you can kind of build your track around it. Now, for me personally, I find it better. There's a million ways to create a track, but it seems like your failure rate, as far as the fact that you're going to end up with a project file that will end up in a folder on your hard drive somewhere, and you'll just close it down. You'll shut that idea down. You'll never go back, and so the idea of actually completing a song or a project, your ratio is, for me personally, is it's tough. A lot of times I'll work on some ideas and it'll really be going a good direction. I'll give it a little too much and then it'll just kind of fall apart. So but I've tried this new technique with this particular song where I have tried to build the busiest part of the song, or I'm going to call it the chorus, because a song is kind of like this is like the river. You're going to come back to the flowing river, the hook, if you will. And what I did with this particular song is I started with the melody. Now, I wrote this melody here. This is the melody in red. And there's a couple, like, these notes are incorrect. What happened is when I wrote the melody, these two notes were out of view, and I didn't realize they were there. And so obviously I have a gap here and a gap here. Now, I left them there, and then when I played the melody, something sounded really unique. And so these are two notes playing at the same time. So technically this makes this more of a chord. This is kind of a chord or a melody, a melody, rhythm, melody, and geez, my words are escaping me. But anyway, what I have here is my scale. I think it's very important to put your scale off and put it left of the start marker. That way, it's kind of a constant guide. Now I have this folded down here. And so you can see there's my drums there, there's my melody, here's my chords here, chords there, two separate chords. You'll notice now I have a bass line and I have a sub bass line. The sub bass line is darker blue, and then the bass line is a lighter blue. And you'll notice here that the sub bass line is these are the exact same bass line, but the sub bass has bigger notes. These are quarter notes in the bass line as opposed to eighth notes in the higher bass line. In other words, the bass line that is higher up as far as octaves are concerned. And of course, I got this all folded. What I like about Bitwig Studio is if it is folded, all I'm seeing is the actual scale. You can do no wrong. If you put this into just a normal piano roll, you can really get an idea the relative octaves or the relative. I always put my drums on the C1, and then my bass and sub bass. Although both are, you can't really see them unless you. It's interesting. Interesting. Anyway, the sub bass, as you can see, is slightly less complex than the layer on top of it. So the bass. Here's my order of operation, and this is brand new because this is always changing, and I find that some order works better than other orders. This particular song, I started with the melody because really that's the hook. That's your hook. I mean, if you build all the parts of the song and then you work on your melody and you can't come up with, it's why not start with the part of the song that's really going to make or break it. And so with this particular song, I started with the melody. I know there's some mistakes here, but it's kind of, I'm just going to kind of leave it. And eventually I'll probably, fix this. I'll pull this back over here, so I only got one note playing at a time here. Let's go ahead and play this. And like I say, this represents the busiest part of the song. And so what I'll probably do is I'll take this and I'll pull parts away from it for breakdowns and whatnot. Now this is tuned for the HS80 monitors and my particular. Now I got this Logitech headset going through here on your phone or your laptop or your desktop or your it may sound as far as getting the lower sub frequencies might not be able to hear them unless you have a good speaker or a headphone. Let's go ahead and play this real quick. And this is, like I say, this is built on 4 bars. I recommend building on 4 bars or 8 bars, but 4 bars is kind of the sweet spot for me. If you build on 1 and 2 bar loops, everything you do is going to sound a little like it's very redundant, So I recommend, especially with the melody, to start with a minimum of 4 bars. Let's go ahead and play this here, and you'll see what we got going. There's just the drums. Again, we got a 4/4, just a basic house or techno groove, and then you have your hi-hats, which are the offbeat. What is that? Syncopated hi-hats there. Here's the melody. And you can see that we have some issues here. Some clicking, which is specific to this particular... I didn't hear the clicking. Now I'm hearing the clicking, so that's an issue. And then you'll see that I have a couple alterations to the melody. What I did is I fixed that. So I don't really like that. I did this melody. Which I don't like, but I love this original melody. Of course, it's got these issues in it, and the more I try to fix them, the less the melody really punches. So, but that's the melody. And I also recommend with your melody and your drums to start pulling. Use the clip launcher and pull out your alts. Basically start with something basic and then pull an alt out of it. Like here, the drum groove. This is without, straight up. Here's another alteration here. Actually, these two seem the same. Yeah, these two are the same. I'm going to delete this. All right, let's move on to the chords here. Let's go with this particular chord set here. And build your chords, and then you can experiment with inverting them. Let's try this. Let's invert a couple of these. See if I'm going to put those back. Like I say, build the 4-bar main structure, the most busiest part of the track right here, and then start to pull these over and make alterations to them. Like these chords, I could invert them. They sound a little bit happier if I invert them. Let's listen to the sub bass here. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Like the most basic bass line, but the thing is with the sub bass is you want it really straightforward. You want the sub bass to almost complement that 4/4. Let's put the other bass track on top here. Da 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 da. Basically the same thing, except these notes are sliced in half. And everything in this track, I've actually used the same synth. I've used the Hive, and that's another practice that I recommend if you're having issues with sound design. There's a few synths that I prefer. Just resetting the entire synth, initializing it if you will, and then building sounds with. This is one of the synths that I really like building sounds from scratch. This and then also Element from Waves. But what I've done with this track is I've basically kind of started with presets as a starting point and then altered those slightly. And I have the same Hive for all the instruments in this song. It's all Hive stuff. So it's all, look at all those hives. That's a lot of hives. Whoa, that's a lot of hives. Oh my gosh, it's getting out of control here. Look at all those hives. My goodness, that's so many hives. But the thing about the Hive is it's pretty low on CPU. It's really efficient on CPU. And you can build a lot of sounds out of it. So this is all the Hive here. It's all the rage. It's all the Hive. So that's, like I say, it's all the Hive. That way, I'm not worried about like, hey, which synth should I use? Also, with I recommend making a template and setting up. Maybe you're going to have 3 layers in your bass track. I prefer 2 layers, but sometimes you can have 3 layers. I recommend a sub layer and then something maybe in the middle or towards the top. And then same with the chord progression. Maybe have a couple of instruments that you can kind of pass back and forth. Kind of get some variation in there. But that's that. Let's talk about sidechain here. You'll see on my bass bus I have the Fairchild 660, which I love. I love the Fairchild. Great for bass. Just a tad bit of stuff going on there. Very tad bit of stuff. Threshold 1. Just real, not too much. This Pugchild, which I actually got on sale. Waves, in my opinion, they have the best sales of anybody. They have some of the best plugins, but they have some of the best sales. Every weekend they have a sale, and their sales aren't just like 20-30% off. They're like 70-80% off. I got the Pultec and the Pugcheck, which is basically it's a Fairchild for the compressor, and it also comes with a Pultec simulation of EQs. That way you can get that character in your sound. I know that with a lot of electronic dance music or whatever, there's a lack of that kind of analog-y kind of character. But these 2 plugins, I got them on sale, the Pultec and the Fairchild, in a package deal, and it was insanely cheap. It was like, I think it was like $59 or something. And they're basically the only EQs and compressors I really use. You want to have an EQ for really for sound sculpting, actually cutting and putting high shelves in, but I also recommend an EQ behind that for the character, to give that kind of that little analog-y kind of breath in there. And the Fairchild rather is perfect. So I usually put that on my bass bus. Now, as far as the side chaining here, you can see here I have a where's my let's go ahead and play this here. Now you can see here I have my dynamics processor. Another thing is as far as your tracks on all your bass and your kick drum, you want to put a tool in right after. So we have our bass patch there on Hive, and then right after that I recommend putting in a tool and bringing the width down all the way. That will bring you right to a mono signal. And then after that's the dynamics, and then you can see I have my Cashmere big kick 10, which is in F sharp. This track's in F minor, so that might be an issue, but you can fix that with an EQ. Again, this is only about an hour or 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half into this track. And so what I did is I threw as much stuff out there and just got as much of the bones kind of built. Later on I can come back and really do the fine tuning, but I did start on some of the side chaining. As far as the side chain, you want to bring it in from your kick drum, and then you want to put this EQ on here, and you want to low cut. You want to give it a low cut. I go to 200 hertz, and this is going to be different based on if you're side chaining from different instruments. But with this particular kick drum, I just put it at 200 hertz, and if you turn this off, you'll see you're getting way too much, like the transient of the bass is just gone. So it's very important to turn that on. And when you got a good side chain, this is what I love about the visual part of Bitwig. You can really see kind of a upside down shark fin, and adjust your attack and release. I don't recommend bringing it down all the way, because then might get a pop. But your release, same with your. If it's too high, your whole bass is going to disappear. So you want to kind of find the sweet spot. And the thing is, don't just copy and paste this on all your tracks, because every instrument's going to be different, And then after that, we have the EQ. We're cutting all that low out and putting a 30 hertz low cut for any kind of rumbling issues. But this is going to leave room for the other layer of the bass. And of course, we have the decapitator, which is we got the dark fat on the decapitator. And then you should probably throw a limiter after this. I don't know. Again, I'm just kind of building the structure and then going from there. Let's take a look at this other bass here. Similar thing. But this attack and release are different than on the sub bass. Again, it's the Hive. We got the lush square coming in, and then we go into the dynamics, into the EQ. And again, we're cutting out. We're giving a little bit more of a low cut there, and then we're opening up the high there, so we can let some of that come through. But again, if you listen to it without the EQ, you're getting too much of those high frequencies that are causing kind of a sizzly kind of, not what you want. Then of course we have another decapitator pass there, which just gives it a little extra, calms it down a little bit. Again, we're side chaining from the kick drum, and we're putting that EQ2 in there. That's without the EQ. So I like that a little lower. Again, you're getting that reverse shark fin kind of feel there. Okay, let's go on over to the chords here. The chords, same type of thing. We got our side chain in there. Let me see what's going down there. Oh, I see what's going on. I'm addicted to that. I love that high shelf, but you could put some high shelf, but I recommend maybe with your melody or something. But again, same process, side chain from the kick, and the attack and release are slightly different. Now, you can do a side chain bus, but I really do recommend side chaining everything specific to that instrument. I think that you get an overall better a better sound there in the end. And of course, you're going to have to go back and fine tune all this later anyway. So there's the old strings. That's without the EQ again. And then the melody. Here's your melody here. That's where my pop's coming from there. And then we got a little bit of a lift here. A 3K. God, that pop is brutal. It's terrible. See if I can get rid of it. It's probably my yeah, it's popping. Again, on the monitors, that pop doesn't exist, so it might be something. This is why I highly recommend, when you're getting to the finishing stages of your track, I recommend listen to it on headphones, on laptop speakers, on car. The car is a great place to listen. Listen to it on your monitors. Find some good monitors to really do the majority of your mixing on. But you might have to go back and, like that pop there in the melodies just plainly doesn't exist. So it might be it's probably these Logitech headphones. Yeah, let me know if that pop is hitting there. If you leave in the comments, let me know if you're hearing that pop on the melody, because that doesn't exist in the monitors. So it's part of the side chain, obviously. There's everything without the side chain. There we go. Alright, let's mix this thing just a little bit. Again, not the final mix, but at least set it kind of in the correct direction. Oh, look at that. Let's put some reverb on the tight snare. Whoa. Oh, shit. Kind of reverb. Oh, yeah, we got this Bitwig reverb, which is better than the old reverb, but still not the best. But that's another thing is your send and returns. I haven't really started on my send and returns yet, but I'm a huge fan of send and returns as opposed to insert effects. Insert effects can really make your mix sound choppy, in my opinion. I mean, unless they're specific to that instrument or to that sound. If inserts are part of your sound design, that's great, but when you go to the mixing stage where you start to mix your instruments together and go into for the final mix, I highly discourage inserts. I prefer going through a send and return. That way you can really kind of blend that in, and then you have one or two reverbs for all your instruments. That makes them sound like they're in the same space, as opposed to having a different reverb or a different delay on each track. That makes it sound a little and this is all just in my opinion. Like I say, I'm an analog hit a drum with a stick, play a guitar with a pick kind of guy. So as far as creating music on the computer, I may be a bit of a novice at that, but I have found that there's certain techniques that work for me, and so I kind of adhere to those. So let's continue on. This is just, like I say, a basic mix. This is not the final mix, but as you're going along with the track, if something's just not clicking, turn everything to zero and just work on a basic mix, and then that will oftentimes that will kind of strum your motivation and be like, okay, it's just now that I've done some basic mixing, I see where this track's going, you know. And so I recommend stopping once in a while and just setting everything to zero and kind of redoing a mix to kind of give it the direction it needs. So we're going to continue on here with this. Do we have a delay? What's this? Oh yeah, it's a delay. It's a delay, isn't it? Yeah, I don't see it though. Oh, it says it's sleeping. Weird. Yeah, so I tended to give this thing a delay, but it doesn't seem to be coming through. Why is that? That's really strange. No reverb either. Oh, I know, because it's pre. That's why. Yeah, I don't know why that delay is not coming through. That's pretty weird. It's pretty strange, isn't it? Is that strange? Is it just me, or is that strange? I don't know. Alright, well, screw that delay. Screw that delay. We don't need that delay. Let's leave that delay alone, I guess. That's really weird. Why is that delay not coming through? Alright, so let's go back to where we were. So let's start off with a kick drum here. Let's bring some bass, the bass bus. On all your buses, I recommend default on the buses. But again, this represents kind of the chorus of the hook. This is where you're going to land, and then you're going to kind of settle in and feel this out. And then, of course, parts will come in and out. The melody, there'll be some variation with the melody, the chords, probably even the drums will probably, you know, bring it down to just the kick drum, bring it into just the hi-hats. And that's where your arrange panel really starts to pay off, as far as starting to bring this stuff over here, bringing it back over, altering it, bring it, you know, when you really start to do your arranging, having both these things, having your clip launcher and your arranger to the right, and just being able to swap back and forth, make alterations. But I highly recommend labeling everything, because when it comes to your layered editing, it's going to be really handy to have this stuff over here labeled correctly. But anyway, subscribe. Tell a friend about the channel. Comment, please comment. I like comments. I've been doing live casts as opposed to video. I just don't have the time to actually record the videos and cut out all the shitty parts. So I just leave them in there. So if I mumble around a little bit, just, you know, it's better than not posting, I guess, at all. But yeah, like I say, chill computer guy. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Please comment. And like I say, you know, I'm not an advanced super computer music guy, but and I'm more of a analog-y type of old school guy, but you know, I like Bitwig Studio, And I find myself getting in here and working on music and finding techniques that work for me, and I like to share them. And the whole idea of watching videos for me is just inspiration. If I'm not feeling inspired, I'll watch a couple of tutorials videos from producers out there, and I'll all of a sudden get some ideas and get inspired. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. So thanks again, subscribe, and we'll see you guys again. Bye bye now.